Hey guys, and welcome to a new video. Today we're gonna talk about the abomination of 3.11 Harvest League, which is an Aura Stacker. So this build is pretty much the exact same thing as the Herald Stacker from the Lyrium League, just it is not as strong, but it's ridiculously overpowered still. And today we're gonna talk about how to set up this character, and be warned, the gear that I'm using here is probably around, I don't know, 500x, 600x, 700, I don't know. Sky's the limit on this build. If you have 5000 exalts, I'm pretty sure this is the build where you're gonna find places to stick 5000 exalts into it, okay? So this is a theory video where I'm trying to explain in a one take how to set up this character, why does it work, what should we use, and so on, and what you could use later on, right? Just a warning, this is not a video for showcasing a Herald Stacker or an Aura Stacker, it doesn't really matter, it's kind of the same. So if you need footage for what this character can possibly do, I think there is 100,000, 549, 69, 420,000 videos online from Herald Stacker from the past league. It pretty much works the same, it is still ridiculous. This is all about how to set up your character and what you should look out for to make it possible if you have the currency for it. Good. How do we start this all off? I have no freaking idea. I think first things first, Templar or Guardian versus Scion. So basically Scion would be the version that has more skill points available, like through the Ascendancy where you get extra skill points. I think you have like 128 or something. You have the option to mix characters like Guardian with an Assassin, Guardian with a Necromancer is I think a pretty typical thing to do. And it probably gives you the option, since you have more skill points, to not use one or two cluster jewels. You could actually reach out for the third cluster jewel right here. So overall I would say the character as a Scion has more DPS because you have way more cast speed, a little bit less tankier because you still have the Unwavering Faith. So you trade a little bit of DPS to a little bit of tankiness. But I would say we're gonna have so much DPS on this build and tankiness actually, but I still went with the Guardian just because it's easier to reach your 90% physical mitigation cap. So what am I talking about? What are some core facts about an Aura stacking character? So last league would be the Herald Stacker where you had like 5 Heralds with the Purposeful Harbingers. This time around you can put this one in, but it's now capped on 40%. So we're gonna have a character that has 90% physical damage reduction. We have a character that has 90% fire resistance. We're also gonna add 90 fire. Oh wait, what is this? Hey, 90% fire resistance. Copy. Pasta. There you go. Then 90% lightning resistance, 90% cold resistance, and 75% chaos resistance. With having about, I mean, energy shield is relative on this build, you know? A lot of people think if I say this build is tanky and in the end I have 4k energy shield, you're gonna say like, how can this build be tanky if you have 4k energy shield, right? The thing is, you have so much damage mitigation that you don't really need a lot of energy shield or life pool, right? Life and energy shield is not the only tankiness that you can get. This is about tankiness. It's about overall damage mitigation. So if you would say we would have about 5k ES, which sounds super low, and we're still gonna have about, I would say, probably 1.5 to 2000 ES per second regen. So this character is not really need any kind of leech or something, because we're gonna leech or at least regen shit tons of things, and we're gonna try to actually get to this point. And then you have like, I would say, let's call this a template character, so viable with almost every spell. So this is really, if you feel like, hey, I want to play Arc, go play Arc. If you want to play Spark, Blade Vortex, Ethereal Knives, I don't know, like whatever spell it comes into your mind, it's just about some small gearing parts on how to pull this one off. This version here is using a Nebulis, so this is something we're gonna start off. How does the Nebulis work? So the Nebulis is a scepter that drops from the Cortex boss. And the Cortex boss, basically, or at least the Nebulis itself, can come in all kinds of forms. It has various implicits. The most expensive one, this one over here, with the explosion modifier, and this goes for about 300 exalts, starting price 350, 400 exalts. There is limited amounts on the market, so if you would check that real quick. So we're just gonna pull out the PoE trait. We're gonna type in Explo, and then we scroll down to the implicit. you're gonna see a couple of weapons here, basically all for mirror service from the Forbidden Trove, for example, all kinds of things. But we're talking about this one. And there is currently only one single Nebulis on the market with the Explo mod for 3 mirrors today. I think like 190 exalts per mirror, so we talked about 500 exalts, right? I paid for mine 250. Thanks to Fast as Fuck that uploaded this Herald stacker, or at least Aura stack a couple days ago. I'm probably gonna get 400 exalts out of it. That would be great, because I spent 250. It's nice profit, right? But what makes this weapon so special, and how do we reach it? So basically what this weapon says is you have like 20% increased cold damage. Damage. I'm always writing it down so it's easier to follow. Per 1%, wait, can we just mouse over this so it's easier to type down? Per 1% cold resistance above 75. And this is basically the same thing with lightning. So you might wonder, how does this work? And it's not about the uncapped resistance. You know, you have like resistance, let's say you have fire resistance, let's say resistance, let's say 75, and in brackets you have like 201, right? This would be your total amount of fire resistance, but there is a cap. So you cannot have more than 75% on the natural cap of fire resistance. But there are ways to improve that. For example, with the purity of fire that gives you maximum fire resistance. We have several things on the tree. For example, the what is it called? Soul of Steel, I think, gives you 1% maximum resistance. So this is the way to higher that number. And basically what we want to reach here is to have cold resistance on 90% and also the lightning resistance on 90%. And what this basically does is you're having basically 15% over the 75, right? And this is how much damage does this scepter give you. So you have 15 times the maximum resistance you have over 75, multiplied by the 20% increased damage. So it's basically 300% increased cold damage and 300% increased lightning damage if you have both on those on 90%. So that's why you can play this build with either a physical spell like Blade Vortex or Ethereal Knives, then you have like physical to lightning conversion, and then you're gonna get all of the lightning damage. And then you're gonna use 2 Call of the Brotherhoods. I mean, I would like to, let's just equip the Headhunter real quick for the strength and dexterity, so we can like equip the gear one by one to see how it like performs, or at least like stacks up. And now you have Call of the Brotherhood. So this ring with the elemental damage catalyst gives you 48% of lightning damage converted to cold damage. So what does that mean is basically you now have about 300% lightning damage increase, and also 300% cold damage increase, right? Cold damage. So what this does now is converting 96% of that value from the lightning damage into cold as well. So obviously 300% times 0.96 should work, 288. So basically 96% conversion lightning to cold, which means you convert 208% from the lightning damage to cold, basically, and that stacks up. So we have 580% increased cold damage coming from the scepter and the Call of the Brotherhoods. So yeah, now you might wonder, why would you do that? It's not an Eternity Shroud build where you would get elemental damage as extra chaos going from one conversion to the other to get this insane damage. This is about, I can now play any kind of spell. I'm having here, for example, Spark. Spark is a lightning skill, but thanks to Call of the Brotherhood, 96% of the lightning damage is also going to get converted to cold damage, and now we have the 588% increased cold damage coming from the Nebulis on top of the Spark. So actually this Spark is now a cold Spark, right? And if you play like Ethereal Knives, a physical spell, you have a Watcher's Eye with a physical to lightning conversion, as well as the physical to lightning gem. It's like 90-something% physical conversion to lightning. And through the Call of the Brotherhoods, you're going to turn this lightning damage into cold damage as well. So you're going to get the maximum profit out of the Nebulis over here. So this scepter gives you basically close to 600% increased cold damage, and it turns your physical and lightning, or basically just the lightning version, into cold through the Call of the Brotherhoods. That is like the explanation why Nebulis is actually so insane. If you would say, hey, I want to play my Aura Stacker with Essence Drain, for example, don't use that, okay? This is just for lightning, cold, or physical. If you convert that, this is not for chaos, okay? If you would like to play your Aura Stacker as any kind of Bane character, or Essence Drain, or Soul Rend, or whatever comes into your mind, then please take a normal wand with like chaos damage or a time multiplier, level of socketed intelligence, or all spell skill gems, something like that. You're gonna benefit a lot more from that one. Good, next part. What is the next part? Let's talk a little bit about the, wait, that was Spark related, that is crit related, this later on. Skill tree related. Shafts for low life. It's like a lot of things. It's kind of hard to follow up with, like, there's so many things into there. But I think let's talk about the cluster jewels, because this is the heart and soul of this build. The more cluster jewels, the more aura effect you have, the better your character will be, both in defense and offense, right? If you just play this build with like bunched like 500x together, you're gonna do no damage at all, because this build lives from the cluster jewels, lives from the aura effect. So how does this work basically? If we're just gonna open up a normal path of building to see how would the build look like if you scale it up, right? The only thing that you need on this character, so let's just make a Templar out of it. You're gonna start with your Templar. You ignore everything that is normal for a build. You will ignore life nodes, you ignore AoE nodes, you ignore everything. The only thing that you need are jewel slots, energy shield for the traveling nodes, and the rest is basically cluster jewel, mana reservation. Here the same, cluster jewel, and over here, mana reservation. Over here, mana reservation. Cluster, or at least like a normal jewel, because here we're gonna put in an inspired, an intuitive leap to get those mana reservation nodes, and then we're gonna anoint the champion of the cause. So this is basically the tree of an aura stacker. It's pretty much the same as on the Herald stacker. All you need is jewel slots and all mana reservation nodes that you can get, because we're gonna fill up the character with as many auras as we can get. And this is basically my tree over here, just like one strength node, because I was lacking strength. Here, Painted Human, if you run a shaft, this is something I'm going to explain later on. But in the end, it's just about mana reservation and jewels. So how would your cluster jewels look like? Obviously, the medium cluster jewels are the strongest ones, okay? And this is because, sorry, this is because the aura effect node. So if we're going to take a look, how much does this cost? All right, how much, what jewel should you take here, right? So we're gonna add passives basically to generate how many passive skills they should have. And this time around, it's not the minimum, which is 4. You want to have the most amount. And on a medium cluster jewel, it is 6 nodes over here. Then we're gonna take skills in radius, or what was it called? Edit, small, passive, skills, grant. And then we're gonna type in the aura node. And we're starting here on like 19 chaos corrupted, 70 chaos, 79. But why do we need item level 84 on those? Because this is what we are looking for. It is from like item level 84, you can roll the 35% increased effect. And as I said, it's all about the aura nodes. And 35% increased effect will turn your 6% that you get from the enchant here, the 6% increased effect of non-curse auras from your skill, will turn it into 8%. And above item level 84, they start on like 18 exalts non-crafted. So I think these 6 jewels are exact copies. I crafted all of them with first among equals and the aura effect, and then augment chaos, augment life for the extra region and chaos resistance. I don't need any resistance on these jewels just because I have all kinds of purity. I have like 200 all resistance without having any resistance on my gear basically, right? But there you go. This is the starting price, about 18, 19 exalts just per jewel, and you want to have as many of those as possible. And to get the most amount of medium jewels, you need voices. So voices come in all kind of forms with like 7 added passives up to 1 passive. The 1 passive goes for like 2 mirrors. I choose to go with this with the 5 passives. They cost me, I think, 6 exalts per piece. But therefore, you're gonna get 3 jewel slots. And this is exactly what we want to have on this jewel to get the most amount of medium cluster jewels. And as I said, or explained how these cluster jewels should look like, 35%. And if you're able to get first among equals, you can also take 2 purposeful harbingers, because we are actually running 2 heralds, which is Herald of Ice and Herald of Thunder. But overall, you can skip the first among equals and just go pure with 5 times the small cluster node, which gives you 8% increased effect of aura, as well as 10% on the first among equals, or as I said, purposeful harbinger, or you skip both to make it a little bit cheaper. But I always say, if you're willing to invest 18 exalts for a medium cluster jewel, why would you not spend an extra 2 exalts to make it or craft it well like I did over here, right? And this is how you do, right? So you have like shit tons of aura effect on those nodes. And we're gonna do this once more over here. Here another cluster jewel. And we're gonna take the next... Wait, over here. And we're gonna get the next jewel. Hey, what is it? Next 3 cluster jewels over here. So, what does every cluster jewel give me? We have 4 times 8% increased aura effect is 8, 16 is 32, plus 10 is 42% increased effect of auras. And that is why we are stacking auras, because the effect of aura will make the original skill gem a lot stronger. And when I say a lot stronger, I mean shit tons of lot stronger. So now we have like 6, and for some reason, I think they are kind of multiplicative. It should not be. It should not be. For me, it is like every cluster jewel gives me 42% increased effect of aura, right? 42, 84, 126, whatever. Math is hard. But it's not like that. It feels like every cluster jewel gives me way more than the one before. So adding the 5th one to the 4th one gives me less than adding the 6th one to the 5th one, for example, right? It's like too much in depth, but this is how it basically works. And then, based on that, now we can stack auras as many or as much auras that we can that are useful. Not like the Herald stacker in last league where you just take any aura, the more auras the better, because then all the other auras will get stronger. Now this time around we're gonna take auras that we actually take use out of, right? So, to start this off, for example, we're gonna take my Alpha's Howl. Alpha's Howl is not mandatory in that regard that you say this is a must-have unique. If you get the most minus mana reservation on your entire cluster jewels and whatever, and this is where it gets insanely expensive, you can take a rare helm as well, right? But this helm cannot be frozen, 8% mana reservation, and I got this with the corruption with the socketed skills have 90% mana multiplier. Let me just check, I need some dexterity over here. So if I just equip the shield for now, so I can equip the Alpha's Howl as well. So what I have here is my purity setup. So as I said, the purity will grant us maximum resistance as I explained on the Nebulis, right? So we have here purity of fire, we have purity of lightning, and we have purity of ice together with determination. But this is something I took later because I had a lot of mana reservation and I had open mana, so why not just take an additional aura? But this is, determination is stronger, I would say, for a Scion, basically, because as a Guardian, it's way easier to reach your cap on 90%. So now we have our triple auras, and usually they would give me 4% maximum resistance. I cannot really check that right now because I'm not having enough resistance, but they are giving me, based on the aura effect that I have over here, they give me way more than 4% maximum resistance over here, right? And then on top, I think determination, yeah, we can put this in later. So these are my first 3 hours that I can activate, and it will give me shit tons of resistance. Oh, and look at that. We get like cold resistance 219%, lightning resistance 185, and this is just because of the sheer amount of aura effect that I have. Only with those 3 purities, I'm already maxed out, and I get the full 588% increased cold damage out of my Nebulis over here, right? And if I would just like now remove a cluster here, I just remove that, you're gonna see that we are dropping the resistance, and at some point we should drop below. Here we drop now lightning resistance to 88. If I remove the next one, we're dropping 89. So basically, as you see, the effect of aura will make my purities even stronger, and at some point they're gonna cap me out on over 90%, because 90%, it would be possible to get over 90%, but 90% is the hard cap. The thing with resistance is, it is an actual percentage less damage taken. If you get 1000 fire damage and you have 90% fire resistance, you only get 100. That means if you would have 100% fire resistance, you would be immune to fire damage, all kinds of sources, right? So GGG decided to cap this one at 90%. So now we have our first 3 hours, so we can start with the next one, which is basically, you have to think about what auras would be interesting for us. I would say, as I just said, purity of ice, purity of fire, purity of lightning. This is just to generate our maximum resistance to get insanely tanky, as you see over here. We don't have to worry anything about resistance on our gear and whatnot. The next thing that would be damage auras. We have a lightning skill, we have cold skills, so obviously we can take wrath, we can take hatred, we can take haste for the additional cast speed and movement speed. Then we can take, what else do we need? Defensive wise would be discipline, since we're in energy shield build, discipline. Clarity, we can take Precision for the critical strike chance, the Clarity for the mana regen, basically. Then we can take Herald of Thunder, Herald of Ice. Herald of Fire doesn't, or Herald of Ash doesn't really give us a lot of damage because it is Fizz's extra and we're playing a lightning-based build over here. It would be better on like Ethereal Knives, for example. What did I miss? I think I'm missing one damage support. Wrath, Hatred, Haste, Zealotry, because we are a spellcaster and Zealotry gives us more spell damage. And now we need to find a way to combine all of these into our gear. So we have now the triple purity over here. And this is also a good reason why to go low life on this build. Not only because we're a spellcaster and we take the more spell damage from Pain Attunement. Even if I would not play a spellcaster, I would still take the shafts just because we now have life as a second reserve pool, because that many hours that we want to reserve, mana is not enough, so we need life as well. So we're gonna put in the shafts here, so now we are safe to, that's why we also want to have the shafts for, since we're an energy shield build and we reserve the life, that means chaos damage can bypass my energy shield. That means if I'm reserving everything and I only have 100 life left, 100 chaos damage will kill me, doesn't matter if I have a million energy shield. And that's why we take the shafts to chaos damage does not bypass your energy shield, so even the chaos damage will go towards our energy shield. So now we need to reserve our life, and this is where Prison Guardian comes in very, very handy, because Socketed Gems have blood magic, and the Socketed Gems have reduced mana reservation, together with all resistance, dexterity, whatever. It's just about the aura gems, blood magic, and the mana reservation. Here I'm having now the Zealotry, the Wrath, and the Hatred. I think I could already reserve that. Let me see if it's enough. Yeah. So now we have like a portion of our life reserved, a portion of our mana reserved, and don't forget, through the Radiant Faith, we're gonna get armor equal to 160% of our reserved life to you and nearby enemies or allies, basically, and we're gonna get the energy shield for the mana. So the more we reserve, the more we're gonna get out of it from the Ascendancy. So now we basically have our Wrath, Hatred, and Zealotry. So Haste is missing, we're gonna put that somewhere else. Just gonna put that over here. So now we actually have, these ones are actually on our gear. This is in the helmet, this is in our shield now. So we can go to the next part, which is, for example, the Maligaro's gloves here. This is not a must-have item. You can take any other gloves, like rare items, or even the gloves of the High Templar, stuff like that, to even min-max more. But the good thing about that one is, we are a crit build, right? And crit builds usually go for tons of critical strike multiplier on the tree, on the gear, and so on. And this is kind of hard to do with this build because we need every single skill point towards our cluster jewels, and I'm already level 96, and I would really like to have this character on level 100. And if you want to play a character like that, make sure you get at least level 93, 94 to even be able to reserve, or at least to stack all of your jewels here, right? So basically, back to the Maligaros. Why is this so good? Because your critical strike multiplier is 300. That means this item, when you crit, you're gonna have the 300% multiplier, but you don't have to focus on getting multiplier on your tree, right? So all you do is just get your mana reserve nodes, your cluster jewels. Don't worry about your crit, because you're gonna get crit through the Bottled Faith, through Precision, for example. Precision, through the Diamond Flask and other sources, but this item makes it possible that we have 300% multiplier. Although we are not even going for multiplier, right? On crit builds, you usually want to heavily focus into multiplier to get even more damage. Some builds get like 500% increased multiplier to reach insane damage numbers. But without focusing, we're going to set this to 300 and we're going to get big profit out of that. That's pretty much doubling my DPS over here. And now we have Discipline, Clarity, the missing Haste, and Smite. Smite, we're gonna keep out for now. This is something we're gonna talk later, but this is just about the auras. So now we have Discipline, Clarity, and Haste on top of that. So the only thing that's missing is our Precision and our Double Herald, and this is what comes into my boots for now. I use these boots, Voidwalker, just because I'm playing Spark right now. I was using the Syntrack as a budget version before, and at some point, you wanna have some nice boots with like Tailwind, Elusive, something like that. That might be pretty nice as well. And And here we have now our Herald of Ice, our Precision, our Herald of Thunder, together with Blood Magic to reserve even more on our life. I don't know if I can activate all the auras right now because it's still about the other cluster jewels. We just have them now, so we're just gonna try to activate as many as possible, but I'm already running out of mana. So Clarity cannot reserve, the Haste I cannot reserve, and the Herald of Thunder cannot reserve either. So now it's about finding a way to get the maximum mana reservation as possible, right? And we would do this with some sorts of cluster jewels, and this is exactly what I did over here. Here I have the cold resistance cluster jewel with only 2 passives because the only thing I'm actually interested is the small node over here. So this one is now gives my Purity of Ice 30% reduced mana reservation. The same goes with the fire version. This is the Pure Might, or what it's called. Gives me 30% reduced mana reservation on my Purity of Fire. And here we have the lightning version that gives me 30% less mana reservation on my Purity of Lightning. And as you see, my mana pool gets soaked up again, and we can reserve even more auras. And I do the same on the last one, and this is for Discipline. And I did not find any other cluster jewel that gives me more mana reservation. So basically, these are my 4 cluster jewels with Fire, Cold, Lightning on the Purities, plus the Discipline over here to generate more and more, or free up more mana, basically, for other auras. And now we can actually reserve Haste together. This is something we would not be possible before, but we're still not done with this one. So how can we even reserve or make it even better? So basically I crafted this amulet with the Vitality skill coming from the Shaper part, merged together with the Hunter plus level of Socketed Intelligence gems. And as you see, we have shit tons of blue gems over here, and all of that getting 1 level. As well as 5% mana reserved from Shaper. I think it was Shaper. And then just Catalyst up with life and mana, so it jumps from 5% mana reservation to 6%. And I also allocate the Champion of the Cause, which is this one over here, gives me another 4% mana reservation and increased effect of non-curse auras as well. So if I equip this one, all the bazillion auras that we reserve have now less mana reservation and frees up more life, more mana to actually reserve even more mana. The same as the Conqueror's Efficiency together with the Conqueror's Potency. This is a quest reward you get at Act 9 or so. With 1% mana reservation, they are not that expensive. I think like 2 Exalts or so. One of those I actually vialed myself and actually hit it. And this is what I put over here, because the Conqueror's Efficiency gives you mana reserved as well. And the Potency gives you effect of auras as well, right? So if we, you have to think about, we have like 10 auras. 1% mana reservation doesn't sound like a lot, right? But if you have like 10 auras and every single aura will have less mana reservation, it sums up, and then all of a sudden you have time, or at least you can actually reserve another one. And as you see, let me quickly get up the flask because I'm running the, what's it called? The Silat's Oath, so I cannot really restore life, so I always have like a mana life flask over here to just fill up my life. And look at that, we now can reserve our Herald of Thunder, we now can reserve our Clarity, we now can reserve our... not yet on the Herald of Ice, but we're working on it, right? So, next one would be, for example, an Unnatural Instinct that you can put over here to get all of these life and mana nodes. Then you can put in, for me personally, I am playing with the Spark, so I need both Spark Jewels. I choose one with mana reservation, one with the Corrupted Blood. If you play with like Ethereal Knives, you also have a Threshold Jewel, then Arc doesn't have one, I think, so it's basically you can take pure talent, whatever you need. So we're gonna put these one over here as well, so we just make sure that you have enough intelligence in radius to actually activate those. And hey, we have another 1% aura mana reservation. Here I'm choosing the Intuitive Leap. I ran out of currency, so this one doesn't have mana reservation, but what that makes is we can now take the Charisma and the reduced mana reservation node before, so I'm saving 1, 2, 3 points while taking the Intuitive Leap. And hey, that's a shit ton of mana reservation again, and look at that, we should actually be able to reserve now Herald of Ice, and we should be able to reserve... Wait, that's it? No, there should be more. Oh yeah, my determination. That's the point actually where I say, okay, I actually have reserved all the things that I want to have. So I still have gem slots open and I have mana to spend. So that's why I picked up a determination as well. It's another 50% aura. So we reserve that. Then Vitality that comes from the Shaper Amulet. We reserve that. So what's left basically on this build, the next one would be actually Rare Boots with Aspect of the Spider, And the aspect of the spider, since I have my blood magic setup in here, will also be counted towards the life. And I think that I still have like 10 or 15% life open. And I think with all the mana reservation, like for example, my hatred, instead of 50% mana reservation, takes only 9%, right? Then we have haste. Instead of 50%, it's 22. So I'm pretty sure my aspect of the spider, instead of 25, will somewhere be like 13%. And this is something I have here free to spend on the life. So that's about the auras, and as I said, the more you can get, the better. At some point, if you're like having a lot of currency and you start volleying a Call of the Brotherhood for like discipline or something, you can skip the discipline over here and take grace for evasion, for example, right? The better, like sky is the limit on this build, right? The better items you have, I'm not even running LE weakness yet because this is a price difference of like 40, 50 exalts with LE weakness on the gloves, but you have the options to build in even more. So basically on that, Righteous Fire, cool thing here is I can actually sustain Righteous Fire. Should be, wait a second, where's my Righteous Fire? So since we're actually Guardian and we are getting mana, or at least life regen per aura that we have, and we're having Zealot's Oath, so the life regen will count towards my energy shield regen, and through all of the the aura effect that we have, although I have only 4,000 energy shield, I'm having 1,000 energy shield per second with 90% fire mitigation, means I can permanently run Righteous Fire without dropping a single energy shield, and Righteous Fire gives me like 20% more spell damage, or 41 actually, more spell damage, and this one stacks up with the Val Righteous Fire, so once you're going to a boss and you have your Righteous Fire active, you activate the Val Righteous Fire and then start killing the monster, you have like 50 million DPS, it's ridiculous. The same with the Flame Dash and the Arcane Surge. Arcane Surge, once you have the buff, gives you 11% or 13% more spell damage together with cast speed. So once you're Flame Dashing, you get another buff that you deal even more damage. And this is also the reason why we're using Smite. Smite is something I actually never use because I'm too lazy to actually use it. But this thing gives you a damage buff, so it's not only just smite. If you smite an enemy, you're gonna get a buff, and this buff gives you added lightning damage or something like that. And when I thought like I'm gonna replace smite because I'm too lazy to use it, but once I replaced smite, I lost almost half of my damage, and that made me realize how strong smite is actually. So if you're going Awakener or anything like that, you would actually, once he's active, you would need to Flame Dash, Smite, and then start to damage, basically. And you're gonna have like 3 times more damage than without this small rotation over here, right? Good, that's about it for about like some insight notes about aura stacking. How is this build working up together? And don't forget, every single effect of aura, for example, my hatred, or what is a good example to show you that? So hatred would actually give you a certain amount of physical as extra cold, right? It's not something I use over here since we're using spark, but based on the aura effect, you're gonna get shit tons of more damage, as well as on the Herald of Thunder or the what is it, like all the other auras are just getting scaled insanely. I think best way to show you is Clarity. So if we deactivate Clarity over here, you're gonna see that we have at the moment, we have defense, where is it, the mana regen. Mana regeneration per second is 29. That means if I now start spamming my sparks, you see that I'm running out of mana very, very quickly, just because I have so much attack speed, or at least cast speed, and the spark actually costs 48 mana. I'm actually having 1.2 million DPS over here, which is kind of insane. So, what does Clarity give me? Clarity gives me 35% mana per second. 35, right? So let's activate this one, and we jump from 29 mana to 306 mana per second, just because all the amount of effect of auras that we have, and now we're having so much mana regeneration that I can just permanently spam and I will never run out of mana, just because Clarity gives me so much, right? And this happens to every single aura, whether it's Vitality, or is it Zealotry, or if it's like any aura that we're using, Determination, everything gets like 10 times stronger than it's actually meant to be. And this is actually something I think GG should not allow. They realized what happened with the Aura Stackers, with the Herald Stacker last league, and this league, the Aura Stacker is pretty much the same version, and as I explained before, you can add Purposeful Harbinger because this actually adds you 8% per Herald, so if you use 2 times Purposeful Harbinger, you would have 32% effective Aura, which is stronger than 2 First Demon equals, but this is about very, very min-maxing, scratching out the last little piece of your character with all the corruption, stuff like that. But back to the topic, I think a build like that should just not exist. This build, like, let's compare. If I would make a very, very strong arc character, and we are talking about mana stacking, min-max gear, double whatever, Wrath, Watcher's Eye, like really insane gear, you could reach 20 million DPS, Shaper DPS with arc maybe, right? Maybe a Mind Over Matter, something like that. Really insane gear. If you take in comparison to my Aura bot that I have here, I just put in arc, I have 40 million DPS. So it's just stupid. In one hand, we have insane damage mitigation with all the resistance, with the physical damage mitigation, with the regen that I have, with the, like, everything together. And now I can just build in every skill that I want to play. Oh, today I'm feeling like playing Ethereal Knives. Oh, let's see. Oh, I have 100 million DPS. In a normal world, if you are playing, even if you take an all-out on Ethereal Knives, going Eternity Shroud into physical, lightning, cold, fire conversion, right? How much DPS would you get? With really insane gear, probably 30-40 million DPS. Dude, with this gear, 100 million DPS, 150, maybe 200 million DPS, while still maintaining all the insane defenses that you have over here, right? And this is something GGG should not allow. As I said, they saw what happened to the Herald Stacker last league. They fixed it, make a cap on the Purposeful Harbinger, but now we have Aura stacking, which is exactly the same thing, so 100% this is going to get nerfed in the next league as well. But yeah, this is just like a small comparison. Holy shit, it's like fucking 40 degrees in my room, and it's getting kind of ridiculous. But I think this was like a brief overview for like an hour on how this thing actually works and how you could make your Herald Stacker as well. I will include my path of building of this character in the description below, and maybe you're interested in that one. I would not recommend it. First of all, it's insanely expensive, but once you have everything together, it's getting boring super fast just because character will not die. I've done Cyrus and Awakener 8 with like less than 3,500 energy shield, and I could almost like literally face tank all of his abilities. And yeah, as I said again, I don't think this should be in the game at all. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and see you on the next video.